I'm Mella.
And this is Art and Inquiry.
And if you've ever felt like you're just piecing things together, hoping like something sticks, either creatively or in life, this episode is for you. Because today we're diving headfirst into the wonderfully fragmented world and chaotic world of collage. We're really excited to dig into this topic. It's something that Kat and I have been talking about doing for a while now. And I'm pretty sure you guys are going to like our twist on how we pieced it all together. So we'll take a look at what we're diving into.
I see what you did there. Pieced it all
I
together.
got you.
I see what
Yes,
you did
yes.
there.
Oh, I have a few puns, so buckle up, right? Or you can glue yourself to your seat. Tape? What are the.
Mm,
I mean, I'm not a pro at the analog collage, so I'm glad, we're going to dive into that too. So, looking into these topics, we've got what is collage, and then we're going to dive into some early examples of collage. Then we'll go into the future with modern collage, dive into digital and analog because it's not just paper anymore. You can play with pixels because I push those and
mhm.
Kat does as well. So it's a good
Sometimes.
time. We have collage and creative process. And this is the piece, at least for me personally, that I find the most empowering when it comes to collage is how it can complement your creative process, help you get through art block and things like that. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then what would an episode about collage be without actually learning how to collage? So what we're going to walk through is the different steps in collage, both from an analog or handmade perspective, as well as digital. And then we will show you some inspired works when we get into the creative challenge. So we have a challenge for you, and then Kat and I decided to do a challenge as well with a twist.
That's true. But what do you need for a collage? Like what are the things that you actually need? It's not that much, to be fair. You really only need materials, ideas, a little bit of improv, a slight understanding of composition, and some way to put it all together. Like, one thing I love so much about collage is that actually you really don't need that much to get started with it. So this is really all you need. And there's a lot of different ways you can put all these things together. The rules are pretty much not fixed in any single way. There's really no rules. It's a chaotic, wild west wonderland out there in the world of collage. You really just need an idea and some stuff. I was gonna say you need an idea, some scissors, um, some adhesive and some stuff, but really you don't. So yeah,
So the rule is there's no rule. Is that
there,
is that how
there
we think
there's
about it?
literally there isn't even a rule that there's no rule. The first rule of collage is we don't talk about collage. No, I'm
I was
kidding.
going to say, I'm like, the first rule of Collage Club is there is no Collage Club, but there actually is a
That's true.
handful of Collage Clubs.
There's a
If
lot of
you've
collage.
ever been on any social
Mhm.
platform, you can find a lot of really cool collage art. And I think that's the beauty of it too, right? The different creators that we've seen collages from, which we also will go into, are all walks of life, all different backgrounds, and some that's all that they do. Others, they just happen to do a collage that was really awesome and, got a little traction behind it. So, what is collage? Well, collage is the art of assembling various materials onto a surface, combining different elements to create basically a new whole, like some sort of new form of art, new artwork off of all of these pieces that you're combining together. The root of the word collage, fun fact, is actually from French, which means coulis, which means to glue. So that's why it's collage, très chic, mou. That's all I got. That's all the French. Like, I speak Spanish a little bit, but we're pushing
Oh,
it.
that
We're
would make
pushing
French
it.
confusing though, because
It
I
is a
I've been
little
learning I've
confusing.
been learning Spanish, and because I know a smattering of French, like enough to get myself in trouble. I actually really struggle with Spanish because they're very similar words, but they're not the
Right.
same at all.
Yeah. And so when I first saw that it was from French and had the two L's, I'm like, okay, two L's is a Y. Oh, no,
Mhm.
that's Spanish. That is not French. Mm-mm.
Yeah, legit. Okay, so starting from scraps, I loved, by the way, that the title of this is great. I love the way that that looks. Anyway, pointing point. Hmm. Yes. It's good that I don't take notes. Can you tell? Okay, no, 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 it's good. So modern collage dates back to the early 20th century during the Cubist movement. It was pioneered by Pablo Picasso. And so this piece that we have here, Still Life with Chair Caning, was in 1912. One of the, not the, but one of the very first pieces of collage that, or assemblage that was created. And this is by Pablo Picasso. I did not know that before we started doing this. Found that really fascinating. So, but it's evolved into a versatile art form that is embraced globally across mediums and styles. So,
Yeah, so in some of the early examples, you'll see there's like paintings or sketch works, different things of more of a traditional medium, and then adding elements or items or objects into them and having some sort of like statement of what they're trying to say or message they're trying to get, or just honestly make it just more visual stand out to where you're asking questions about what does this mean? Why was this put here? And almost like having like a hidden message by the way that they apply the layers. I think what's really fascinating too is if you think about all of these, they added an entirely new dimension to artwork. Literally
yeah,
added layers, and that
yeah, literally.
changes the whole like capability of what you can do on that canvas or on whatever they're working on.
Yeah, no, for sure. I just love the fact that they were using things like wallpaper, newspaper, things of that nature, just looking around what's in my environment. Like like in here, this still life with this chair caning. That's a chair caning. That's the back of a chair. You know what I mean? Like it's fascinating to me that it was really almost the birth of found object art. You know what I mean? Like I just love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So Cubism. Speaking of Pablo Picasso, one thing that I found fascinating through researching this, as a person who knows a bit about art history, I was never really drawn to Cubism. But while I was researching this, the idea that Cubist collage art breaks down objects into abstract shapes and presents them from different perspectives kind of made it click for me. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you take a look at some of these pieces right here, like this one is a guitar, right? But it's almost like the component slices of a guitar, like cross sections of a guitar that are spread out in seeing them from various perspectives. And they were able to use collage to really bring this to a head, like to really add something to this jumble up the perspective of the viewer in unique ways. Like it was an attack on the perspective that had been used for 500 years. It confused people. They said things don't look like that. That was said by David Hockney, and that really started to click for me through this. So one thing I'm so grateful for is that I now understand so much more about Cubism, and I like it now, and that is wonderful.
Yeah, the cubism piece is kind of interesting too because you have that deconstructed element, right?
Right,
And
right.
I think about in other types of art or even like cooking, for instance, you can order a dish and it can be a deconstructed cheesecake or something
Mhm.
like that, right? And what are they really doing? They're taking apart elements of a complete dish and showing it to you in a different way so you can
Yeah.
consume it in a different way, both visually and literally eating it.
Yeah, for sure. No, for sure. It's it I so I'm not going to say I didn't like Cubism before this, but now that I really understand what they were trying to accomplish with it a lot more than I used to, it 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 made me see everything in a whole new light. And the deconstructed aspect, especially using something that is like construction to show deconstruction. So I'm assembling
Yeah,
something, but I'm showing deconstruction. The juxtaposition of that is really interesting to me.
absolutely. Alrighty, so flash forward, not too fast, but going from Cubism into Dada, you'll see some things that'll seem familiar from Cubism in the sense that they're bringing elements in, hence the
Mhm.
whole point of today's episode. But what's really cool about Dada, and Dada is also in writing as well as in visual arts, which that's a whole nother topic. But what's really cool about it is it leverages photos heavily.
Mhm.
So often termed like photo montage is what people think about, and using various elements in addition to the photos, like painted items. So what's cool is that a lot of Dadaists will end up like having like an unsettling or uncomfortable quality about all of their works because of that contrast and those different textures, and they'll make you feel something. I think in addition to that, right? In addition to that, a lot of the artists, like the ones that you'll see pictured here, we have Hanush, Hausman, Ra Hausman, and George Schultz. Each of these also are saying something typically satirical or making a statement in a certain way, making a comment about the way things are either in society or they have a message behind it. And for me personally, that's what really stands out to me about Dada and why I really like it, because there's more than just what meets the eye. And I find that very powerful. And it can mean something totally different to different people.
Yeah.
Typically when people see this like at the jump, they'll think, okay, it's absurd. Like it just looks weird. You're just trying to, get some sort of like visceral reaction from me. But
Right.
that is getting something from you, right? Why does it make you feel that way? What is it about this? Why would that be put there? It causes a lot of questions, at least for me. So I'm kind of curious to see, even Kat, like, what do you think about a lot of this Dada art?
Well, what I love about it is so it's taking something that is very familiar, such as a photograph or like aspects of a painting, but it's doing it in a different, new, unique, absurdist way, which gives you pause. It makes you stop and pay attention. And the fact that it is absurd and yet still says something cohesive and concrete is like it sort of shocks the senses into paying attention, which is something that I've always loved about Dadaism, because you look at it and it again, it looks absurd. Like it is. Some of the things look absolutely absurd, but they're speaking to you. They're saying something. And it's using, I mean, almost it's like building on what cubists were doing, really. It's taking things that you want to talk about and forming it in from a different perspective, so that people pay attention. And I always love the idea that, like, photography as an accurate reflection, but we're using, people would believe this, like the truth of it, because of the use of photographs. And yet it's absurd. This obviously can't happen. You know what I mean? That I like the juxtaposition, is I guess where I'm
Yeah.
going with that. Yeah. I love Dada's.
Yeah, it's kind of like say you have a friend who's coming over for dinner
Mhm.
and they bring a huge pair of scissors and want to start eating their meat with scissors. It's like that's a little disruptive, definitely unforgettable, right? That is Dadaist, right? Like that is
For
Dada,
sure.
is disruptive, unforgettable.
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
combination of those two. It's like they didn't hurt anyone though. Like no
No.
no one's hurt by this. It's their own little world, but it makes you think something and feel something for some reason.
Yeah. No, it's jarring. It's
Yeah.
jarring and unsettling. And I love that. I absolutely love that. And it leads so well into my favorite style of art, which is surrealism. Because it surrealists were like Dada, like Dadaists of dream, really. So Dadaists were very in your face. There was a lot of like juxtapositions. There was a lot of like elements that made you uncomfortable. But with surrealists, they took things and they like put them through a dream lens, and they talked about, dreamlike irrationality was something that is very common to surrealism. There's this quote here that is one of the founding principles of surrealism, which is as beautiful as the chance encounter of an umbrella and a sewing machine on a dissecting table. Again, absurd, but dreamlike, like softer. And some of the things that, some of the artists pictured here, there's Salvador Dali, uh, famous surrealist. There is also Renee Magritte. That's what I thought. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I just had to make sure. Okay, this is Magritte, um, made very famous by the Apple. The businessman with the Apple. This is a piece of collage work that he did. And then there's Max Ernst. And these things, they're so quite simple, but yet so effectively beautiful and dreamlike. It feels almost like a subcon. Like whereas Dadaists to me were very grounded in reality, this is very grounded in the subconscious. And even those surreal works that do not incorporate true collage have a very collage-like quality to them because of the way that they're speaking to the subconscious mind, the way that they're, the faces and faces elements of Salvador Dali's work. I mean, it's beautiful to me. It's stunning to me. They had the portrait of Mae West by Salvador Dali, which was one of the first pieces of art that drew me to surrealism in the first place. Like a lot of people, the persistence of memory, the one with the melting clocks, right? That's how most people learned about Salvador Dali. But and that was how I learned about Salvador Dali as well. But the Mae West, like the room where it's a face in a room, I was like, I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know you could take someone's features and like their hair and make a curtain. It opened up so much for me, and that's a very famous collage of his. So yeah.
Yeah, seeing things differently. I think that's a
Right.
reoccurring theme. And
Yes.
I feel like collage gives an opportunity for someone not to just see things differently, but then help you see things differently just by them creating the collage. So it's kind of goes both directions.
It does. 100%.
Alrighty, so after surrealism, now mind you, this isn't necessarily like after, right? Like you still have people making surrealism while making pop art. So these aren't necessarily sequential
Right,
in the
right.
sense that like they can coexist. Pop art, most people are familiar with what pop art is. I think pop art, first person that most will say is Andy Warhol, and they'll think of Campbell's soup and stuff like that. But he didn't just paint cans of soup. It's surprisingly enough, but he
Uh,
liked the aesthetic of clashing images and colors, and
mhm.
that's very apparent in the middle image that you see here. On the far left, you have Richard Hamilton's work, and then on the far right, for any of my music fans, we have a Beatles album cover. And what many don't actually know about the Sgt. Pepper's and Lonely Heart Club Band album cover is that the way that this was done is actually a collage. It was meant to represent a new band after a show, having all their fans around them. If you look carefully, though, at the collage, at the image of the on the album, you'll notice some very familiar faces. We have like Fields, Edgar Allan Poe, Bob Dylan, Huxley's on there, Monroe, Karl Marx, Oscar Wilde, Shirley Temple, even Einstein's there. Like it's just crazy. All the iconic figures that are thrown on there, and that cover was done by Jan Haworth and Peter Blake
Mhm.
actually in '67. So it won a Grammy Award apparently for Best Album Cover,
Did it
which I
really?
didn't know.
I didn't know that
Yeah,
either.
I found that out when we were looking at the different information and wanting to find just something that most people would recognize. And I think
Right,
most have
right.
seen this album cover, and there's a lot of even just, I guess you could say, lore or theories
Totally.
behind different things in this album cover that we could definitely do an entire episode off of.
Oh, legit.
But yeah, nonetheless, it's definitely fascinating to see these uses of collage and pop art. And so pop art in general is, it's basically like a technique of collage where you're using a lot of repetition, and we'll go into that in just a moment. But using repetition, and it's like critical, I'd say, not critical, maybe it's more something that's critical to pop art is that it leverages like magazines or newspapers or something. A lot of times you'll see like famous labels, logos are used in pop art, and that's something that makes it kind of signature, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. One thing I didn't know, just I know we're harping a little bit on Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, but the thing that's so cool about this is that this is a photo of a collage. Like, so this is a photo of the band against a collage with like other elements, like this like garden type vibe right in here. That was a real thing. This was a
Yeah.
real thing. Like this was a cutout. This was a cardboard cutout right here. This was a doll that was right here, and then this is the actual band. So it was a photograph of a collage of items against a collage, and I thought that that was just really cool.
It's a
Um,
collage and a
it's a
collage.
collage. It's a collage and a collage and a collage. And also, this is a great time to mention that in the companion blog post to this, we're going to have links to all this stuff that we're talking about, like each of these images is going to link to where you can learn more about the specific piece of art and the artist that created it. So I think, but for this one, it does actually link to some of the secrets that Mello related to.
So many secrets.
So many secrets. So yeah, let's get into the modern day. You know, let's go forward. Let's get into now, right? So modern collage combines traditional and modern techniques to extend the potential of collage so that it's limited only by the imagination. So whereas before in these historical movements, we didn't have the digital aspects of things. We didn't have digital photography. We didn't have all these digital programs. We'll get into that more later. We do now, and the fact that you can mix things up, both analog and digital, in your collage is something that's only available now, and I love that. The Sergeant Pepper thing, using a photograph of a collage of physical objects against a collage, that is a great segue into modern collage, because you have so many more tools and options open to you, and they're available to everyone. So let's get into this.
Yeah.
Let's get into
Finding
it.
art.
Let's
Let's do
literally
it.
get into it. This is my favorite part. I
I hope you're glued to your seats. That's all I got.
am. I
That's
am.
the last pun that I have. That's
Oh,
it
it's the
though.
last one. Are we sure? Are we sure? I was
We're not
really
even
hoping.
near the end, but you
I
know.
was really hoping we would stick to that.
Oh,
Oh.
ooh. So, finding art. So, as we mentioned, collage takes items that already exist, pulls them together in different ways to create something new. And if we jump into this for collage, I think one thing that's pretty fascinating is you can create collage with having no artistic background, no formal training or anything like that. You can also create collage if you've had a lot of educational background when it comes to art and things like that, because collage actually conveniently combines a lot of elements of art in the same way that it is visual. So things like composition, layout, hierarchy, rule of thirds, color theory, texture, topography is there too, contrast, juxtaposition. I mean, the list goes on, as you can see
Sure
with
does.
all of these items. And, to not necessarily spend too much time going into each and every one of these, we wanted to pick one that is kind of that overarching concept of what makes collage, and it's composition.
Sure.
And composition is critical. And if you're not as familiar with what composition means in more of an art sense, it's really the heart of a compelling collage. It uses principles with inside of it. So things like rule of thirds, arranging elements to guide the viewer's eye, the space in between objects and the balance of them, and transforming basically disparate objects into a cohesive and harmonious design. Like that is composition. You
Exactly.
typically, even without having the background, would know something doesn't have good composition because it just doesn't look right. You might not
Mhm.
know why, but it's very striking when composition is not done well.
100%. Like, just think about taking a selfie. This is the, to me, the clearest and easiest way to describe this. Think about taking a selfie versus someone taking a picture of you. You know how we always, when we take a selfie, we find the best angle, we get the right lighting, we know exactly where to go. That is us making a composition, whether we realize it or not. That is us making a composition of our face and surrounding environment and the light to create the best, like most aesthetic version of ourselves. But then when someone takes a picture, like say a group photo of us in a party in a room or whatever, we don't it doesn't look right. Like, we don't look right to ourselves because we didn't specifically compose the shot. And you can just tell when a photograph, like taking a selfie is something we probably all do in the modern age, right? I mean, I'd say we do, right? The vast
I
majority of
mean,
people.
do you do a duck face when you do a selfie? Because that's important. I feel like this is a friendship deal breaker.
No, no, no. I sure don't. I
No,
sure
not
don't.
even on
No.
occasion, Catalyst. No.
So, okay, occasionally I will suck in my cheeks, but I try not to purse my lips in the duck way. But I will do the cheeks, that like, to get the cheekbones a little bit better,
Yeah.
like so that it
Okay,
duck face.
that's not like an
I have
extreme
done.
duck
So
face,
here's the thing:
though.
I have done it. I have done it before, but as a joke, and then I have done it before not as a joke, but I don't like it. So no, not usually. I don't usually do duck
Well,
face.
if you see someone doing a duck face and they're overtly doing a duck face, just
Hmm.
ask them what smells on their upper lip, because that's what it looks
Literally.
like. You're
Yeah.
trying to smell your lip now.
No, I do this face.
Oh my goodness. If you're listening and can't see what Catalyst looks like, make sure you watch the video and maybe we'll put a freeze frame of her in here just for fun.
All right, so I mean, analog x digital. So this is my favorite thing right now because in the modern era, we have the ability to do both. You can take something from the computer to the physical world by printing it out, and then add additional elements to it. You can take something that you've created that's physical, that's a multimedia project, or that is a found art project. You can take photographs of it and then you can pull it into the digital world. So, creating physical analog collages involves gathering materials like magazines, photographs, and then cutting them and arranging them for a hands on tactile experience. Whereas digital collages made with tools like Procreate or Canva offer precise control, easy edits, allowing artists to combine diverse elements into a cohesive whole. And I love right now that you don't have to choose. Like, this is not I'm analog and Mellow's digital. You know what I mean? This isn't that anymore. This is together. And it's a brave new world. And we're making here's the thing about this too. I was just talking about the selfie thing for a minute, but here's the thing about this too. We've all made collages, whether we know it or not. Like, whether you think about it or not. If you've ever like stamped something on a piece of paper, if you ever ripped something up and put it on something else and like written a little note, and or like you put some post-it notes on things in an aesthetic way, you've done collage already. You know what I mean? Like, this is what you've done. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
where I want to go with that.
Think about
And
school book covers. At
oh,
least back in
literally.
my day, when I walked uphill both ways to school, we had
Oh yeah,
paper
me too.
bags or that you would cover the books with, right? And well, having all your books brown is boring. So you typically draw all over them, you'd cut out
The
magazines,
S
different
thing.
pictures,
The S thing.
words. Yes, the S thing, you
Yeah,
doodle
yeah, S
all
thing.
over it. And that was a collage. Little did we know
Little
that
did we
we were
know.
creating collage back then. Like, we could have been famous.
We could have.
If only we saved it.
Yeah. I do kind of wish that I had photographs of some of my old like paper books because they were pretty great. And I did cut things out and specifically make collages and like put band, like draw band stuff and whatever else. I wish I had some photographs of that stuff. I would love to look at that now and just see what it's like because we would spend so much time on that. Like, at least I would. I mean, I really enjoyed it. And I would keep working on it in class, because I couldn't possibly just sit there and pay attention. That wasn't the vibe. That wasn't the mood at all.
Yeah. Benefits of collage, because collage has benefits in both directions. If you think about it, collage is a great tool for breaking art block, artist block, creative block, whatever you want to call it. When you are stuck, you can use collage because one of those things, and I know Catalyst has a line about it, but basically it's the fear of the empty page, right? And it's when you're staring at either that cursor blinking or just that blank sheet, like, where do I start? But the ability to just grab something that's sitting next to you, it could even be junk mail, like scraps of paper, doesn't make a difference. And just playing around with things helps get your mind kind of moving in a different way. And you start seeing things differently and putting things together. So it can be something that sparks creativity. But then you have the flip side as well. So if you aren't necessarily struggling with finding your creativity, but want to continue to grow as an artist, using collage as a way to practice your ability to problem solve, to think creatively, to do things differently or spark new ideas it's a fantastic tool for that.
Oh yeah, it is. And I mean, it's a great way to learn the fundamentals. Like, it really is. All those things that we talked about in the collage college slide. This You're going to be learning those things whether you know it or not. If you're doing collage, these things will start to come to you. You will be teaching yourself how to do those things. So that's a great benefit to me because people always ask, "How did you learn how to make art?" And it's like, well, you learn how to do it by doing it, right? So, but maybe you don't have like a full suite of oil paints and a bunch of canvases and fancy brushes. but maybe you do have a magazine, a newspaper, some scissors, and E6000 and a piece of wood. You know what I mean? You can use those things, put them together, and it's the greatest. To me, collage is like the most, I don't know, the gateway to
The
art.
gateway,
It
the
really
gateway
is,
art.
though. Yeah, and it's in the evolution of yourself as an artist. I mean, even if you revisit collage every now and then, like I've really enjoyed revisiting collage throughout the course of making this episode, because, or making the things that we made to go into this episode, because it's like getting back to basics almost, but
Yeah.
and yet adding each thing that you learn as you go. Like you, I don't know. It's just it's a fantastic. There's a lot of benefits to collage.
We love you, Collage.
We
That's what
love
she's saying.
you.
We love you.
I do. I do. We love you.
Collage is like problem solving with scissors. It's like
It,
the only time that it's okay to run with scissors because it's your mind, you know? Like, I'm just saying.
collage
So
is
if we,
it's problem solving with scissors, but not murder.
but not murder, like no one will die. This is okay. Had more people done collage? No, I'm not going to venture down there. Not going to venture.
I mean,
All
you
right.
never know.
So we talk about this creative process, and I'm sure if you Google creative process, you'll find a different process map of what the creative process looks like done by tons of different people. Creative process is ultimately how do you create things? And it can be a multi-step phase, it could be two steps. It just kind of depends on you as a creative. But overarching, tried to kind of bucket some of the things you end up doing when you're creating into 5 groups. So we could kind of walk through how collage can fit into these and how it can also complement them.
Yeah, let's
So
do
if we
that.
start yeah, if we start on the left, this makes a little archway as we go over the creative process, and then we get to this light bulb at the end. So we're starting with preparation. And with preparation, this is where you're gathering your ideas, your inspiration, your lookbook, your Pinterest. Maybe you're scrolling on social media. It doesn't necessarily have to be a formal process, but if you're making collage, as an example, this could be where you're flipping through magazines or browsing a website. Maybe you're on Upsplash or something, just trying to find ideas to kind of get you going. And then you go into incubation. This is where you have an initial idea and you want to just kind of let it unravel or unpack it. And so you start walking down certain paths and playing around with it. So you get to experiment, and it's kind of like mindful creativity, connecting different things. And then eventually, after you're playing around with things, you'll eventually get that spark. This is that aha moment, the one where you maybe before kind of felt like everything was black and white and all of a sudden it's all in color. Like it's that
Ooh,
one
the Wizard of
object
Oz
that
moment. That Wizard of Oz moment.
yes,
Yeah,
yes. It's like,
yeah,
I'm pretty sure everyone's kind of been there too, right? You'll be working on something and then something clicks and it's almost like, whoa, like light shining,
totally,
cloud. Yeah, it's crazy.
totally.
So I do feel like collage is huge for that and can help you because you can find an object that basically can be that spark, or even the way you move something or tweak something or flip it, then it's like, boom, I feel that now. I'm here.
I'm here for this. Here for
I'm
it.
here for this. I'm so here for this.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, after you have that spark, then you start into this like creative fury and you're kind of moving everything around and you're refining your idea. This is where you're piecing it together, like what works. I always think of Bob Ross during this part though, with the happy accidents and like the trees and stuff like that, because even if thought it was a mistake before, maybe it's not anymore. And there's
Yeah,
never a mistake if you really think about it with art. It's just a matter of how you work with it and the problem solving piece, because it could have been meant to be there. So iteration is key when we go into this evaluation stage. And then lastly, you go into implementation. This is where you're really bringing it to life. And you've already kind of cleaned it up, polished it a little bit, and you're now sharing this with others or just yourself. And if you are, though, sharing it with others, this can then become the beginning of their creative process. This could be even a spark in the middle of their creative process by seeing what you've created.
yeah, for sure. 100% can lead right back into preparation for someone else.
Right? Maybe this is a
It can
circle.
become the maybe it is. You become the inspiration for somebody
It's like
else, which I love.
Ouroboros, like eating its tail, going around in
Yeah,
circles.
I love Ouroboros. I actually have a fridge magnet. I want to go get it, but I'm not going to, so I'll just describe it to you, which is an Ouroboros, right? and then another like a small little snake. It's like a cartoon. It's like a black and white little like line drawing cartoon. So it's an Ouroboros, and then a snake going along the bottom that's looking up at the Ouroboros, going pervert.
It's priceless. So
Like it's
priceless.
my favorite thing ever. Okay, so how do you do it? So how do you do it? So we just talked about like what happens in the mind. Let's talk about what happens physically. Like how do you actually do it? So you're gonna be gathering up your materials and your ideas, right? You have to source your materials. You gotta get some stuff. You gotta take your stuff and you gotta put it all together on a table or however you want to do it. Like this is relating first to analog collage because that happened first. So we'll relate it to analog collage for the purpose of this slide. So you gotta source your materials. Sourcing your materials is the first step to creating anything physical, and collage is no different. Though this often involves photographs and cutouts, multimedia collage is a valid and a thriving way to go. Many artists choose to take their own photographs and make their own prints. There's a lot of different ways that you can go, though, because assemblage, like pulling in different things from magazines, pulling in, just like word groups, little bits of headlines, things of that nature. That's a fundamental part of collage as well. You can either make everything yourself and then print it all out and put it together in a collage, or you can source things from the world, found objects, things of that nature. All of this is valid. So then you're into the experiment phase, and this is what I like to think of as the storytelling phase, because you're taking a look at your objects and you're trying to figure out what they say. Maybe you have something in mind first, or maybe you don't. That depends on you as an artist. Like some people, for me, speaking just personally, it's a relationship between both. So I will look at the things that I have and I'll see if they have something to say, but I also might have something to say too. So we might be trying to do both. But this is like an experimentational phase. So you're going to try different compositions. You can see if the materials tell a story. You can use this time basically to organize yourself. You're looking for the spark, really, is what you're doing here. And then, of course, you have the assemble and embellishment phase, which I, I I struggled with this part right here because there's really no rules like we've discussed. So I was like, there's really like when you're talking about how to do this, I can't really tell you because that's completely up to you and what you've gathered. But there's it's limited only by imagination. At a minimum, you're going to need something to put stuff on and some sort of an adhesive to make things stick together. At a minimum, I was going to also bring in scissors, like I mentioned prior, but you don't necessarily need those because ripping is a really awesome
Yeah.
way that people use to add the elements to the collage. So here's a couple tips though, and this this to me is kind of like my advice to you, I suppose. If you're going to be creating some sort of an analog physical collage, don't be afraid to make mistakes. That's like the number one thing. Creating physical collages involves gathering materials, cutting and arranging them for a hands-on tactile experience. It's a process of experimentation and discovery. So don't be afraid to make mistakes. I know that you might be afraid of losing like your one specific item, but don't be afraid of that because your one specific item isn't necessarily if you made it yourself, you just make another one and print it again. Do you know what I mean? If it's from a magazine, go get another copy. Nothing is lost, even in the analog world. Nothing is lost. You can find everything again. And if there is something that is precious, wait until you know what you're doing and add that thing at the end. You know what I mean? So don't be afraid to make mistakes. Layering is really important in an analog collage. You can provide depth and texture. You can use decoupage to add like a motif or a pattern to something that's a three-dimensional object. You can do all sorts of different things. Layering is key though because that's going to add your depth and dimension. And all your materials, cutting and assemblage and tools are all part of the creative process. I think I've actually covered this pretty significantly throughout the course of the slide, but this is where I was supposed to say the thing about the scissors and the talking. But yeah, and then find inspiration. There's a rich history of things that are, and a rich history of collage, and it's thriving to the modern day. All you have to do is type in the word collage, and a lot of things will come up for you to look for. Find that inspiration because connecting with other artists through what they've done is an integral part of the creative process, at least for me. But let's get into
Yeah.
digital.
Digital. Yeah. So I know personally, I I like digital only because I have the ability to undo if I
Mm.
moved something a different way. But outside of that, I'd say in general, how I approach digital collage is actually very similar to analog in the sense that I try to leave most things where I end up putting them.
Mhm.
Like, not necessarily take advantage of the fact that I can always undo 50 steps back and procreate, but like actually like work with that because there's something to be said about when you try to make a mistake not a mistake. Basically,
Yes.
like take it as part of the process because you end up creating something, yes, different than what you originally intended, but typically it's good different.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to see that until you let the process play out and just know that it's kind of like a partnership of you and your creativity. Not one is in control of the other. Like it has to be mutual. It has to be give and take. So for digital, we have, get your artboard set up. So first and foremost, if you have an intent behind this collage, for instance, you want to print it or you want to like showcase it digitally,
Mhm.
you just want to make sure you have the right specs. That's always, always key because it's really hard after the fact to then upscale something. I know there's a lot of,
Yes.
generators that can upscale images. Don't get me wrong, they are pretty good nowadays, but there is nothing like just building it out in the proper specs to begin with. So if you're printing
Amen.
300 DPI, 300 DPI, that should be a number,
At a
off the top of your
minimum.
head.
At a minimum.
At a minimum, at a minimum. And then if it's digital, 150 DPI. Again, like you can always go bigger than this. The reason I did put the minimums though is knowing that you're going to be adding a lot of layers and doing a lot of
Yeah.
things. It is going
Yeah.
to be a big, bulky file by the time you're done with it. So just depending on what kind of software you're using, which brings me actually to the main point of this, which is the software. So what's really great is you can literally create a digital collage with any sort of app, program, software that you have that can let you move objects. Like it's that simple. So you could create it in Photoshop if you want. If you want to create it in Canva, you can. If you want to use GIMP, which is totally free, by the way, you can use that. If you want
Mhm.
to use Procreate on your iPad, you can use that. Literally any app, software, it could be a browser-based one that just lets you move and manipulate objects, grab objects, place them down. Now, depending on how far you want to take it, like if you want to be able to manipulate those, to use like a snipping tool or lasso, a selection tool, filters, things like that, that'll probably guide more where you want to go as far as what software you use. But ultimately, don't feel like you're ever limited by, oh, I don't have Photoshop.
Right.
Because when we flash forward and show you some things that we actually created, neither of us use Photoshop.
We
So
sure did
just throwing
not,
it out
even though even though
there.
even though I've Photoshop is the thing that I'm probably the most comfortable with of all programs, and I specifically didn't use Photoshop, which is yeah.
Yeah, so once you have your software and your artboard, you're ready to rock. So now you need your assets. You need the objects, the things that you're going to be pulling in. These can be photos that you've taken, they can be random, just like royalty-free images that you've grabbed off of things like Upsplash or other websites. Just please make sure that you're using only items that aren't like there's not attribution required or things like that, and respecting the artist. That's a key
Yes.
call out on that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But there's so many different sites that have that, and if you're using something like Canva, Canva has an entire library of images and assets, and a lot of them are even vectors that
Yeah.
you can change the colors of, manipulate, and there's apps inside Procreate, there's apps inside Canva that let you also manipulate the actual asset itself. And then similarly with Procreate, you can also do that. Same with Photoshop, manipulate the actual object or the item. So
Yeah.
a lot of cool stuff that you can do. And then the last part, after you have your artboard, your assets, now comes the fun part of experimenting and customizing everything. So this is when you're playing with layers, creating depth, overlapping elements, adjusting transparency, filters, all that kind of stuff. Now you don't have to do any of those. You can
Yeah.
literally just bring objects in, keep it simple, and create something beautiful. And it's up to you also what kind of style you want to have. If you look at certain works by different artists, a lot of times you can actually tell which artist it was because they have almost like a signature
Very
style
distinct style.
of
Yeah.
how they handle it. So some, for instance, really like to have that jagged edged papery feel when they cut out objects. And I've even seen digital collage artists do that, even though you know that they're doing it in Photoshop. So they could easily do a clean, precise line, right? That's super smooth. But instead of doing that, they choose to use like the polygonal one
Hmm.
instead.
Oh
So that way
yeah,
they have these little hard lines and it creates just a different level of dimension and makes certain objects stand out versus other ones they'll bring in super flush. What's also a lot of fun and Procreate, and you can do this in Photoshop as well, is playing around with masks and clipping masks. So if you don't want to mess up a certain image or you want to keep it there, but maybe only parts of it there, play around with layer masks.
yeah.
There's a lot that you can do there in clipping masks and see what you can create and how you can enhance certain areas of different objects that you're bringing in.
Yeah, for sure. It's so much easier now too. Oof.
Yeah,
I just have to say that. I know that it's so much easier now too to create masks. There are
yeah,
literally tools that will help you remove the background and create a mask this way
yep.
and select things and create a mask this way that we used to have to do one by hand, like just very individually. And it's amazing. It's a brave new world.
Yeah, yeah. So if we go to some tips and tricks for digital, we mentioned most of these already. So try different software. If you're one who you've only ever used one software and you feel like you're almost hitting a roadblock with it, I mean, feel free to try another one. Like I mentioned, you have free Canva version. You can also do the premium one too, which has even more assets. But give Canva a try. Or if you have an iPad and had downloaded Procreate but never messed around with it, here's a great opportunity. Like Collage offers that ability because you don't have to do things a certain way, right? There are no rules. So you get to actually learn more about that program while you're learning more about the art that you're creating. Online tutorials, that's a big one. If you go YouTube, social, any of those, you can find tons of tutorials. I love watching like kind of time lapses of people creating collages is kind of neat too. Anything for inspiration, honestly. Really leverage what you see others doing as well. And it doesn't even have to be that they're creating a collage. They could be just creating something else and you see a certain technique that they're using and you just try that on your collage. You're like, oh, that'd be pretty cool to try out. Let me try it on this, square object that I have and just see what happens.
Sure.
The other item, and I am really bad at this unless I'm working on something that's specific for like a project that I'm giving to someone, is organize your layers. Organize your layers. This one's so important just because you
Yes.
don't want to accidentally flatten them or
Yes.
delete them or end up affecting more than one layer. So organize them the best that you can, but don't let it slow down your creative process. So there's no shame
Oh
in,
yeah, you can do it at the end
creating.
too.
Yeah, you can do it at the end, or if you're at like a stopping point and you know you're going to kind of take a break for the day. That's usually when I will go and I'll actually just start labeling things that I should have labeled before.
Mhm.
Then it helps when I do pick things back up the next day that I kind of like, oh yeah, this is what I was doing with this layer. This is what I was here. So you can get back in the groove faster. And also, like you can use tons of different tools, plugins, brushes. I can't stress that enough, especially for Photoshop, especially for Procreate, things that let you create different looks and things that you wouldn't easily be able to achieve without them if you're going for a specific vibe or a feel to your art. And then last but not least, save as. What's cool when you do save as instead of just save is you have almost like a timestamp of where you were in that part of the process. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying with, yeah, I could technically, hit undo 50 times, but sometimes there'll be a part where you almost wished you took a different direction. So if you go back to that version, you can take another direction. You can almost have like a dual world of this I went this way and this one I went this way, and see where you end up going by taking that different direction. So always save as.
Always. Yeah. The only thing I'd add is I mean, the concept of building an asset library, like if you're not actually creating right now, but you kind of feel like gathering, you're kind of in a gathering mode. I love what one thing I love doing is browsing like royalty free websites and just pulling things and adding them to my little digital asset library. Like, oh, here's some more cool maps. Here's some more cool whatever. So that when I'm in the mood to create something, I have
Yeah.
this entire library full of assets. I'm like, okay, I need a map here. I need a map here for the background. Let me just grab that real. Let me just see if I have something in my library, and those are all organized by like what they are. Is it vintage? Is it modern? Is it this? Is it that? Now you don't have to be that ridiculous about it. Like you don't have to be as nuts as mine. The reason why mine is so organized is because it's the work of like 20 some odd years of gathering. So there's a lot of stuff in it. You know what I mean? Like there's so much stuff. So that's part of the organized piece for me is a lot more about my asset library than it is about my document itself. Like my documents aren't really organized until the end. Like until it gets to the point where there's so many layers that I can't get to the layer I want unless I organize them. Like that's
Yeah.
when I organize them. But I
Yeah,
like
and
your
you haven't,
I
yeah,
like your idea though about organizing when you're like stopping for the day. That's good. That's
yeah, because
actually I
it's
that sounds
almost like it's like a little bit of a decompression too. I'm not saying you get wound up when you create work, but it's kind of like a mental process. At least that's what I do. Because then on the flip side, it helps me wind back up. So I
mhm,
probably created like it's like Pavlov's dog, right? Classical conditioning that when I do these certain things, I act a certain way. But for me,
mm,
it's really helped. And I think too, like what Kat was saying with the digital asset library, even if you don't take it that far to like have it organized, I mean, something so simple as a folder on your desktop, a saved with reading list, a notes app on your phone, just dropping things in there so that when you're ready to be in that mode of creating something, that you have some things that you've seen and liked. I can't tell you how many folders I have that say cool stuff, but one day I will end up going to that folder. I mean, I do go to the folder, but I typically will open the folder in gallery and then just like look at it
right.
quickly and like
Yeah.
grab something from it.
Same,
Yeah.
same. Yeah, I use Bridge a lot, like Adobe Bridge a lot, because you can
Yeah.
kind of just like see the thing and whatever. And that's kind of changing though. I'm evolving, so it's this is very interesting. It's a brave new world for me as well. All right, so oh, we've reached the creative challenge portion. Oh my gosh, so now it's your turn.
Right?
I'm like this is so good though because collage is so much of the creative challenges that we have posed to you, the viewer. I think this one is going to be the most fun. And I think you're going to
Yes.
get the most out of it so far. Of the ones that we've done so far, I think you're going to get the most out of it because it really doesn't take any special skills and it really doesn't take any very specific tools. You can do this with free things on your computer if you happen to have one. You can do it on your phone. You can do it anywhere. You can cut things out of magazines as long as you have scissors and glue. Like I've said, scissors and glue. So now it's your turn. We just want you to create your own collage. Let me
It's that simple. Like I feel
yeah,
like we need like
good.
some smoke and mirrors and all this
Yeah.
stuff. But I mean, just like we had described, collage has no rules. Like the only rule is it doesn't have a rule. So if you think about that, this is something that you can go wherever you want to go and however you want to get there. And it can be something where you're inspired by something you see, where you're going through maybe even the presentation that we're sharing today, which will also be in the blog post. So if you haven't checked out our blog that goes with it, every episode we have a companion post. And inside that, you actually can play around with this interactive deck. And if there's something that you saw on one of the earlier slides, you can click into it and actually see the article that it's from or get more information about the artist.
Mhm.
So, leverage those different things and create something that resonates with you. It doesn't have to be super in depth, super complicated. If you're struggling on like where do I start, just jump into like
Start.
Upsplash, Pexels, Pinterest, like something like that. Just like
Start.
look at stuff.
Yeah.
Just look at stuff. That's it.
Just do it.
And then just start throwing things together and then just moving
Yeah,
things around.
literally.
That's
Just
it,
push some pixels. Literally just push
right?
them. Just a
Push
little
pixels.
just
Push
push it like
pixels.
just two pushes, right? Just try it. Just try it just one time. Because it'll be so much fun. It
Just a little
honestly
bit. Just a little
it
bit.
honest just a little dabble do you. Yeah, it'll be so
Tiny
much fun.
bit.
It will. But this is a rare opportunity too because we did this already ourselves, both of us together, and we added a twist.
Yes.
So welcome to the co-host challenge.
Oh, snap. So it's funny because we've done a few of these challenges by now, right? And every time we do them, we explain on the episode what the challenge is, and then we post on social our own response basically to the challenge as well. Well, for this one, we were like, well, what if we do a challenge, but we kick it up a whole nother notch, because I mean, yeah, we created the challenge. So us just doing the challenge just doesn't really seem super exciting.
Right.
So call it sabotage, call it challenge. We had a genius idea of, yes, we will both make a collage.
Mhm.
The caveat would be that I would pick an object that Catalyst had to use in her collage, she would pick an object that I had to use in my collage, and then the cream on top, the cherry on top, is it has to be a portrait.
Mm.
So I don't know if you've ever seen it in my art. I don't typically do portraits, nor do I do collages. So I don't know if I was in a self-sabotage kind of mood or if I would, but I was like, all right, we're going to do this. And I remember initially just thinking through like, okay, well, I'm sure I can get away with something abstract. So yeah, this will be easy. No problem.
Right. When we were talking this over, I was like, well, oh yeah, that works because it could be something abstract. I had said in Mill, I was like, yep, 100%, yep.
Yeah. I'm like, sweet. Yeah. Okay. Abstract. Because that's going to be easy.
Uh,
I'm going to make Catalyst just a cat. And I'm going to put like some weird stuff on it. And then I'm done.
yeah, no, and
Yeah.
I do portraiture. Like I do it in various different ways. I do it, but I didn't this time. Spoiler alert. I was okay. Let's not spoil it. Let's not spoil it.
Okay.
Let's talk a little bit
We'll
about like
walk through it.
yeah.
Walk through it.
Let's walk through it. Let's tiptoe through the tulips.
So when we gave each other the objects,
Hmm.
we did not see each other's objects in
Nope.
advance.
Nope.
So keep in mind when we saw this and saw the object that we picked out for each other, we were like, wait,
Wait.
we could have picked anything under the sun. We both picked music themed objects that also are objects that look like real photos, like they're actual images.
Um,
So the item that Catalyst picked for me is gramophone, aka record player that you see on the right side. And that's like the super old school, like Victorian
Trolla.
garment. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's like kind of
Yeah.
wild. And then the one that I picked for her was a cassette tape. And I intentionally, like, there's tons of cassette tape images that you can find. I intentionally picked one that was clear and like nondescript because I thought it would actually be interesting to see how she chose to use it because I feel like when you pick a classic like the black one with the white sticker on it, like
Right.
it directs you too much. But by going clear, I was like, I'm curious to see if she uses this in a different way. Is this going to mess up her typical style? Because like I've looked at a lot of her art and it's like you don't see anything clear or
Oh, interesting.
like
Oh,
modern or anything like that.
that's
Yeah.
actually really interesting because I've realized that most of what you've seen is the stuff that I've been posting recently. Actually, clear is my vibes. I clear like see through
So
like that's
apparently I helped
yeah.
her.
You actually did like 100% help me. I love like see through things. I like distorted perspective, but like so I like translucency a lot. Like not see through and clear, but rather translucency.
Okay,
Because I like playing with diffusion. And
that makes
this,
sense.
yeah, I just do.
So yeah,
Okay.
so those were our objects for each other. And we had to then create a portrait of each other.
Yeah, so I guess we're starting with me. Yes, that's right. I forgot. I'm first. Okay, cool, stunning. So this is my object. This awesome, wicked, awesome tape. We didn't really make any rules with each other about like what we could do. I did edit the object slightly. See this little blue dot? I did remove that just as an FYI. I just did. It was
That would
messing up
annoy
the
me.
odds.
That
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
kind
it
of looks
annoyed me.
like an
Yeah,
issue.
yeah, yeah. It annoyed me because it looks like here's what it doesn't it look like the cursor? Like the and I kept seeing it as
Yeah.
like I kept thinking that I had accidentally put a blue circle and I was like, no, that's on the image. No, that's on the image. So I used I yeah. So the way that we have this set up is we're gonna go through the process a little bit first and kind of talk about like how we arrived and then you'll see the final piece. So what I did for mine, I actually took a video of the whole entire process. This what is here in this document is just a small clip of like how we got to the end results. But my initial thing that I was going to do changed very dramatically throughout. So it's basically like even sped up, even time lapse sped up. It was like a half an hour long. So what I probably will finish editing that and throw that up on my own channel. If I do, we'll link that in the description down below. But here is the last like little bit, and this actually represents several hours worth of work. So one thing that I wanted to challenge myself to do was to use Canva to create it. Like I'm a dyed-in-the-wool Photoshop person. I've been using Photoshop since a year that is significantly earlier than now. Okay, very early. A multi-digit year. That's very early. I've been using it for a really long time, and it's my safe space. But I've been using Canva a lot in relationship to art and inquiry, and this is an integral thing, like something that I do associate with Mello very deeply, because even though I'd heard of Canva before, I knew about it before, I really never would have started using it if it wasn't for Mello. So even the choice of program was part of the homage. And as for how I used the tape image, as you can see, you can see me pulling it into the background in here. I experimented a lot with different apps within Canva and kind of started getting to know like what you could really do with this program, because as a dyed-in-the-wool Photoshop user, what Mello was saying about like using different programs as a way to spark your creativity, I experienced that throughout this process. Like it was very interesting to me, the app process, like the way that you could bring different. So I didn't realize how much Canva was truly capable of until I started making this. And yeah, so it seems at its core to be a very simple system, but actually it's very complex. And honestly, you can do even more with it than I had any idea that you could. So you can see that I'm bringing things in, and yeah, we're just going through the process just a little bit. And yeah, there you go. You can see me. You can see me getting rid of the little blue dot because that was really important. So yeah, the full entire like process of this will be linked in the description down below, assuming I do put it up. It may not be when the video goes live, but it will be eventually, and then I'll edit it. So in terms of
I feel
bringing
like
things in,
your use here, like where I'm seeing you with the cassette and making the
yeah,
cassette big and playing with the cassette in a different way, I just find
yeah,
that fascinating because it's not just using the cassette, it's using the attributes or the shape of the cassette in a different way and seeing it in a different lens. Like
yeah,
that's kind of neat.
yeah, yeah. No, the moment I saw that, I knew. I'm very. You're aware that I'm very into the game Fallout, and the vault doors. Like what I saw inside the little aspects. I saw like a gear, like I saw like a vault door. I love gears. I love vault doors. So I was like, all right, I got to use that. I got to figure out a way to use that. All right, so let's take a look at the final object. All righty.
Stunning, just stunning. I love it.
I'm so
Hers
glad.
moves.
It
Hers
does. You know
moves.
what's cool?
Okay.
You know what's cool about digital collage over analog? You know what's a benefit to digital collage over analog? You can use video. It's completely fine. Like you can use video. And I never thought of that before until we did this project. Like I got so inspired by this. And I'm so glad that we did it. Like I just from the bottom of my heart, I'm so pleased. So that's
I
my
think
piece.
it's just so neat. Yeah. I
I
mean, the way
also used it
you
very traditionally. Look, see, I also did actually use it like a traditional, and it's the keep it mellow mix. You know what I mean? Like,
Catalyst got bonus points somehow when we weren't even keeping score. So, yeah. But I think it's really neat too that you brought in writing. Like I can see like handwriting in the back
Mhm.
and things like that.
Oh yeah,
Like the mixed media, like I love mixed media.
me too.
Love mixed media, which is kind of funny because it is collage
Hmm.
basically, but the specifically like when it comes to like writing elements as well as visual elements or like
Yeah,
just something that really resonate with me. And then the use of colors. So blue is my favorite color. I use a lot of blue. I could tell you the hex code if you wanted it, but
hmm,
I use a lot of blue in things, but it's not the only color that I use because blue by itself is that'd be just kind of boring, right? Blue on blue on blue. So I typically would use things like purples or pinks, things like that to contrast it, and everything kind of falls within this like overarching space type color palette. Which, like on my Twitch and a few other elements, you'll see kind of like an astronaut motif and space theme, thing like that. So I think she like captured so much of my vibe on this and the neon signs. Like she sees into my heart. So
Oh,
I
I
love
love
it.
that.
I love it.
Oh, that makes me feel so good. That makes me feel so good.
Super cool. Super
Oh,
cool.
that's awesome. All right, well, let's move right along.
I kind of
Tell
feel
us
like if someone told us, or I guess like if someone was looking at these and didn't know
Mhm.
who made which one for who,
Yeah.
it might even be reversed because I feel like Catalyst went a route that typically looks like a lot of my art, which is like just the clean, the bright, the neon, like, and then it stark contrast with dark, even though it's not necessarily like what I, as a human being, like creatively enjoy to watch or to see. It's what I create because I have a knack for it and I love it, and it bodes really well into a lot of the areas that I do projects for.
Mhm.
So with Catalyst, and she gave me this record player If you've ever seen, if you're following her on social, by the way, not a plug, but it is a plug, follow her.
Be on
You want
social.
some inspiration, right? You want some inspiration, take a look at Catalyst Instagram, which is where I went. So if you look at the pictures on the left side, I didn't feel like I had to worry about attribution because she had them on the internet. But
Literally.
no, this is all from her Instagram. So clearly you could see that she loves cats and she talks about her cats. We actually have a lot of clips of her talking about her cats or her cats crashing our recording,
That's
which has
happened
happened
during this
before.
one. This happened during this one.
Yeah. So they clearly knew that they were front and center. And so she has these amazing cats that have so much personality and all of these different poses. And I knew with collage, what I needed was I wanted the personal items to be in there so that it was meaningful. But then I also had to think about colors and texture of what I was bringing in to be able to create something. So as I'd mentioned off the jump, I was thinking I'll go abstract. I feel like that would be easier. So then I could spend more time refining it. So if you think of that creative process, instead of spending as much time in the beginning, like kind of laying things out, I could spend more time at the end perfecting it and playing with my textures and doing all the nerdy stuff that I like to do in Procreate. So that was my original intent. That dramatically changed. So when I was in the incubation stage, I was like, okay, so I'm doing this digitally. I still feel like I need a sketch of some sort. So that way I have like a framework to kind of work within and then I can pull the objects into it. So I draw a little quick sketch of Catalyst and the sketch that you see pictured at the bottom, that came off of looking at her different images that she's posted of herself, all of which selfies, none of which duck faces, I will add. And in every single one, she has one of her eyes covered. So that spoke to me so loudly that I was like, okay, whatever I'm creating, I need to cut like half of it off. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to cut half of it off because she always covers one eye and I want to show that. And then I'm like, okay, now I have cats, I have one eye, and where am I going from here? So I continued, like, I would say this preparation and incubation stage were almost circular for a little while because I kept pulling in different images. Lastly, to get the objects, though, that I ended up using, I wanted to make sure that it wasn't just random objects because I have a lot of those already, right? I wanted to make it meaningful. So when I went through some of her posts and some of the projects that she had done, I actually pulled items that she had created or had worked with someone to design, and I wanted those as my color palette. I wanted those as objects that are inside of this collage. And she's giggling. I don't know why she's giggling. Maybe she saw something she never saw before.
So, okay, all right. Do you want to know why I'm giggling? Because I just realized
Yes.
that the color palette that you saw, and I didn't really realize this. It's literally the bisexual flag.
Yeah, it is.
I didn't I didn't like it really never connected for me that I use those colors so much, and that it's the
Yep.
bisexual flag, which is kind of a I mean, not to like get so super personal, but that's repping my vibes. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a subset of it's a subset, but still, that you'd rep the bisexual flag if you were doing that and you were me. So there you go.
Yeah. So if
That's
you
why I
look
was
on
laughing.
the right side of this, I have the objects that she created. So the difference between the objects on the left and right, the left is the images that I pulled off of her socials and internet and things like that, and the object I had to use, which is the record player. On the right, I took all of her objects, I stripped out the background, tweaked a few things on them, and then I also grabbed other elements. So you'll see a lot of paint, a lot of torn paper, cardboard. I fell in love with this. It's a turquoise tiger lily, which I never knew that was a thing. Apparently that's a flower. Go
Wow.
figure. But I fell in love with that, and I fell in love with destroying it by like stretching it and playing around with it. So the image that's in like the top of that area is actually a tiger lily with the petals pulled down just
Oh
as a
wow.
distort feature. So that once I did that, I was like, this kind of feels like hair. And I know I need hair. And then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna mess Catalyst up because I'm gonna go for a real portrait. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna commit. I'm gonna make a portrait. It's not gonna be abstract. I've never done this before. Let's see what happens. Ergo, next slide, you'll see what happens. All right, so from the left to the right, we've got the left, that's the sketch, that's my outline. So on top of that image that I drew, I then applied each and every object that you saw in that previous one in different ways with different filters, different treatments, lighting, texture, what have you. The tools that I used Procreate, obviously, and then I did use some texture brushes. I didn't want to use too much texture because I almost felt like that was cheating in a sense because I was really trying to source all of the objects. So the only textures I used was like a canvas texture, which is applied to the overall at the end. But all the cardboard, if you zoom in on the colored one, that's all cardboard constructing her whole face. So I tried to like discern how would lighting look in this, and then what shade of cardboard should I have? Should I have a darker shade, lighter shade to give a little bit of dimension? And then one of the items that she had created, I put as her eye so that it was like just very, like it popped even from a distance. And then I had the different colors flowing through her hair as well as some of the objects at the bottom that are overlaid with a different layer treatment. So once I got here, I was like, okay, cool, I made a portrait. Oh yeah, there's that image, that image, because so it was funny because I knew the whole time I had to use this image. Like I was thinking about it, but then I ended up just going so far down this path of the collage that I was like, okay, now I need to reincorporate this. So I then started thinking about, well, Catalyst likes like this vintage vibe, and she has more of these like, I don't know how else to call them, but they're really like vintagey colors, like not dusty, but it just feels almost like it's been worn in a good way. So I wanted that to be in a room that's been worn in a good way. So I took the collage and I put it within a collage that I created. So I created a collage with a picture frame, a wall, a floor, and then I have the record player with the filigree, because I know we worked on something and you had mentioned filigree and like went on and on about these different, I'm like, that is more than I ever knew about filigree. I mean, I'm just glad I can spell it now because that took me forever. So I have the filigree basically coming out and like creating the frame. And then next to the record player, you'll see a few of the other objects that she had created that are intentionally put there. So I have the mask, which I recolored. I then have like the book that's sitting there as well. So this
The
is what I
shoe,
created.
fairy
The
shoes in
shoe, oh
there.
yeah, the shoe
Yeah,
is there as well.
the fairy shoes in there.
And it was everything I could do not to make it like look too perfect. I was still trying to keep that collage feel, even though the the digital artist in me wanted to make everything just precise with like lighting. And I'm like, no, like I want it to feel like it was put together.
Right on.
So this is the inception of Catalyst.
I absolutely love it. Like I absolutely love it. When I saw this and we were gonna do it, like what if it wasn't for the fact that we had to put it together in the deck, like prior to going live, I would have loved to have. I wish that you could have seen our reactions to both of these things because I
Yeah.
love this so much. Like this is so detailed. Look at this. There's little organ in here with blue eyes. There's a like
Oh
it's
yeah, the
all the black
cats.
part is my
Yeah.
cat. Like
So
it's
I used
I love
no
it
black pens, no black objects except for her black
for
cats. That
all
was the
my
only
cats.
black. So every black you see is her cats.
And here's the iris. Yeah, here's the
Oh no, it
iris.
was the flower. Yeah, the
Yeah, it's
flower
flower.
was the tiger lily.
Tiger
Yeah,
lily.
yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Which little do you know was my mom's favorite flower. So not necessarily a turquoise one, but like just a regular sort of standard orange one. But like I as a memorial to her because she's no longer with us, I do resonate very much with this flower, and I do use it. I do use it a lot, just like
Wow.
as a memorial. So it's fascinating to me that it is in there. Like there's so many things that you picked up on from my work that it's interesting how it happened. You know what I mean? And you just
Yeah.
pick that up from just like the things I've posted on Instagram recently, which honestly is not the sum total and brought the kinds of things that I do. So I love that. And I love this so much. I think this is wonderful. I think
Aw.
it's beautiful. I can't wait for you to give it to me so that I can print it. I can take a picture of it and
Well,
put it on
it
my
was a
wall.
really cool experience. Yeah. So, I mean, I would say for me as an artist, this was a big learning experience for me
Mhm.
personally. Like, I think I actually grew a lot too, because there was so much when I first started creating it that I just wanted to like draw it. Like I can create it, you know, and I just kept like, it's more of that additive approach. Like I'll just make it, I'll just add it.
Mhm.
And then collage is almost the reverse where you have to find it and then cut away what you don't want. So it was kind of flipping the way I would typically approach something, which initially was like a little bit of a friction point. But once I started to get more comfortable with that, I then almost felt like, oh wow, this is like a whole nother way
Right.
of thinking that I haven't been using, and I've been creating cool stuff.
Yeah.
So now imagine like having this in my
Tool.
toolkit, like yeah, just even like a way that my mind's thinking about things, I feel like is almost different. And this was for fun. Like this was just a fun project that we were like, okay,
Yeah.
like we'll do it too, you know?
Yeah, literally. And I mean, I'm so glad we did because these are so great. Like these are both like
Yeah.
I just love this so much. I can't tell you enough. I just love this so much. I think this is amazing. And I love the fact that like this assemblage process was new to you because I didn't know that. Like
Yeah.
based on so when I was researching for yours, like I put on some things that that like to get myself in the mellow space, basically. Ooh, see what I did there? See what I did
I
there?
see what you did there. I see what you did
Um,
there.
so yeah, and I like so I listened to one of Bella's favorite artists, Lana Del Rey, and I went through her website and I was just sort of looking at the things that were on there, but like not like directly. I was just kind of scrolling through without necessarily stopping at things, but just like feeling the vibes of it. Do you know what I mean? Like it was
Yeah, it's almost like when you look at something in blur, like
yeah, yeah.
slight blur.
Wait, like
Yeah,
this, like this.
exactly.
Ooh.
Yep. Yeah.
I
I
was like,
love that though, because that's how you pull colors out of things. Like if you're ever really
yeah.
struggling with something, blur it
Mhm.
and then like see what pops out at you. Because you'll see kind of lines and shapes that you didn't see before when you're looking at it in high res.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, no, but I love this, and there's all these little like details and things like that. Like I see feathers, I see like the ribbons, I see the little like resin pendants and things like that. I love it. It's so cool. It's so cool. So rad. All right, so yeah. Oh, yay, the resources page. Okay, cool.
Yes.
All right, right on. So this is all true. This is all the things. Blah blah blah.
Right. So we're really excited to see what you guys create
I am.
for collage. And like we said, anything you can think of. It doesn't have to be like a specific theme. If you want a theme, ask a friend for a random word. Like look on the internet, look at the last emoji you used, you know, something totally random to spark your inspiration. As you saw when Catalyst and I went through it, we went to each other's like sites or
Mhm.
socials and
Yeah.
just like, you know, picked up some things, some themes, things we were seeing.
Mhm.
And there's no wrong way to do it. And I think that's the cool part is it's just an opportunity for you to escape for a little while, get in your own creative space and just play around with either a different tool, a different object, a different style, things that you haven't done before and typically can help you think differently because at the end of the day, that's what it's about, right? Growing together.
It is. It's about growing together. It 100% is. And here's a couple of things that you can use, you know, to get yourself started. Um, Also, I do encourage you to check out the companion blog post for this episode specifically and use
Yes.
this deck that we've created. We love this deck.
Yeah.
I love this deck.
I mean,
I
I
don't want
guess we're biased, but yeah, it has
to, like the thing is it's
so
so
much good
cool. Like so
inspiration, like
cool.
so much.
Normally
Yeah.
we include like sort of inspo slides at the end, but we were like today we were talking about it and we had the space to put the inspo slides. We're like, let's just use the deck is the inspiration. Like literally we
Yeah.
went hard on this deck. We went
Yeah.
hard. So yeah,
Absolutely. And you'll also see there's links. So some of the brushes that I mentioned, I actually
mm,
have those in a sampler that's free in my shop, as well as digital art journals. So if you want it to be super easy, where you just open Procreate and you already have a page formatted for you, I actually have a digital art journal that's free too. So you can just grab that, and then you don't even have to think to start. You literally just open up the file in Procreate, and you're ready to
yeah,
rock.
ready to rock.
So definitely check those out. And always keep in the back of your head, like collage isn't really an art form, it's more of a mindset. So there's not going to be a wrong way to do it. You're just
Literally.
layering on like your creativity and your ideas, and there's never a wrong idea. So super excited to see where you end up going with it. And when you do post it, make sure you tag us, Art and Inquiry, on Blue Sky, on Twitter, or if you do even like a video time lapse, YouTube, you can pretty much find us almost anywhere. So tag us and then use the hashtag ArtInqMe,
Arting.
ArtInqMe, ArtInqMe.
ArtInqMe. ArtInqMe hard. Do it now.
Get it. Get it.
I couldn't help myself. I just couldn't help myself.
I thought we said we were done with puns.
I can't be done with puns. I can't. That's not possible. I would love to say that I could be done with puns, but that's not possible.
Well, I mean, if they stick, you just got to keep going, layer them.
All
Well, with
right.
that, I'm Mello,
And I'm Kat.
and this is Art and Inquiry.